Josh Hartnett's career started like a Hollywood dream. Seriously, this is not how it usually goes. Most actors grind for years. Small roles, background parts, blink and you miss it appearances. Some spend a decade just trying to get a single line on screen. Hartnett? Completely different story. His first feature film was Halloween 20 years later, and he already had a solid supporting role. Not bad for a debut. Then came The Faculty, directed by Robert Rodriguez, and suddenly his face was right there on the poster, front and center. He was 18 with 2 major studio horror films already behind him. And just like that, he blew up. Overnight, Josh Hartnett became one of the most recognizable young actors in Hollywood. The industry was all in on him. Big future, leading man. The next big thing. Yeah, that didn't exactly happen. So today, let's go back and look at Josh Hartnett's career and, more importantly, the moment where everything started to shift. After the early hype from Halloween and The Faculty, you'd expect him to keep climbing. Instead, 3 flops in a row. But here's the thing, it didn't really hurt him at all. First, Here on Earth and Blow Dry were tiny indie movies. Nobody expected them to make serious money. Second, he wasn't even the lead in those films. And third, they were balanced out by The Virgin Suicides, which critics loved and audiences respected. So far, no real damage. Then came Town and Country, and this one hurt. A $90 million budget, about $10 million at the box office. That's not just a flop, that's a full-on disaster. One of the biggest in Hollywood history. The production was a mess. Endless script rewrites, almost $50 million just burned on cast and fixing the script over and over again. And yet, Hartnett barely registers in the movie. He's deep in the supporting cast, easy to miss. At the same time, he lands a lead role in the thriller O, which actually works for him. So again, no real consequences. But not everyone got that lucky. Warren Beatty, an Oscar winner and Hollywood legend, basically saw his career end right there. Hartnett, on the other hand, was just getting started. Then came his peak. Pearl Harbor, Black Hawk Down, big movies, big directors, big spotlight. And here's the funny part, he didn't even want to do them. He turned them down more than once. Originally, his role in Pearl Harbor was meant for Matt Damon. The idea was to play off the real-life friendship between Damon and Ben Affleck. But Damon had to choose, Pearl Harbor or Ocean's 11. He picked Ocean's 11. Later, he even apologized to director Michael Bay and offered to show up for a cameo for free. But by then, producer Jerry Bruckheimer had already brought in Hartnett. And this is where things start getting complicated. Because this is where Hartnett's personality begins to clash with the system. Michael Bay is known for running a tight and intense set. Let's just say he's not the easiest director to work with. And with Hartnett, it didn't click at all. Bay wanted charm, lightness, movie star energy. Hartnett, he went serious, intense, almost too serious. Bay couldn't get what he wanted out of him, and it drove him crazy. At one point, during a full-on meltdown, Bay finally found a single shot where Hartnett had the right smile and yelled that he'd send it to ILM and have them paste that smile onto every single shot in the movie. Yeah, that kind of set. And yet, despite all that, Pearl Harbor worked. The movie made money, audiences showed up, and Hartnett, along with Kate Beckinsale, had even scored an MTV Movie Award nomination. Clearly, people liked him. In fact, that was already his second nomination in just 3 years. Right after wrapping Pearl Harbor, Hartnett gets another offer, this time from Ridley Scott, Black Hawk Down. At first, he says no. He doesn't want to do 2 war movies back-to-back. Fair enough. But once again, Jerry Bruckheimer steps in and basically tells him, "Trust me, this is good for your career." So Hartnett signs on. In theaters, Black Hawk Down performs okay. Nothing crazy, but critics love it. Audiences love it. The film ended up with 4 Oscar nominations and won 2. So now Hartnett is in a really strong position. And then he lands a movie where he's not just part of the cast, he's the guy, the lead. 40 Days and 40 Nights, a $17 million romantic comedy that turns into a solid box office hit. Everything is lining up perfectly, and then it all starts to crack. Right after that success, Hartnett takes on Hollywood Homicide, and this one hits hard. It's his biggest paycheck ever and his first real, undeniable failure. Even Harrison Ford couldn't save it. The movie bombs, critics trash it, audiences don't care. A sequel was planned before release and quietly killed right after. Not exactly the trajectory you want, and it gets worse, because now stories start leaking from the set. About Hartnett, about his behavior, about tension with Harrison Ford. In later interviews, Hartnett admitted that the two of them could sit in a car for an hour not talking, just staring in opposite directions while the entire crew waited outside, frustrated and confused. That's not tension. That's a Cold War. Ford later didn't hold back either. He called Hollywood Homicide the worst film of his career and openly admitted he only stayed because of the paycheck, which tells you everything you need to know about how that production went. This is where everything really turns. Because that failure didn't just hurt Hartnett's momentum, it got into his head. Between 2003 and 2005, he starts making decisions very differently. More cautiously, more defensively, and then comes the moment that defines his entire career. Christopher Nolan offers him Batman. Yeah, that Batman. And Hartnett says no. At the time, it didn't sound crazy. The last Batman movie was Batman and Robin, and that thing basically killed the franchise. Nobody believed a new Batman would work. It looked like a guaranteed failure. On top of that, Ben Affleck, Hartnett's friend, fresh off the disaster of Daredevil, was actively warning him, don't do it. He told him it could destroy his career, so Hartnett plays it safe. He thinks it through, weighs the risks, and then tells Nolan not to contact him again. Today, he says that was the hardest decision of his life. And probably the most important one, too. Because Nolan doesn't wait, he moves on. He goes to Christian Bale. And for Bale, that role, it changes everything. Suddenly, he's Bruce Wayne. He's Batman. He's back on top. Hartnett later said he used to meet with Nolan a lot back then. They even talked about working together on The Prestige. He was basically in that circle. But after turning down Batman Begins, that door closes. Nolan gives Batman to Bale, then gives The Prestige to Bale. And just to make things even more awkward, Scarlett Johansson, who was Hartnett's girlfriend at the time, ends up starring in The Prestige too. Coincidence? Maybe. But yeah, not a great look from his side. After Hollywood Homicide, things don't just slow down. They start falling apart. Project after project underperforms. There are a couple of exceptions. Sin City, but let's be honest, that's not really his win. It's a small role, more of a cameo. Robert Rodriguez basically brought him in out of goodwill after The Faculty. Then there's Lucky Number 11. In theaters, it does okay at best. Doesn't really make its money back once marketing is factored in. But later, it finds an audience. Becomes one of those hidden gem movies people discover at home. Still, not enough to turn things around. And then comes The Black Dahlia. This was supposed to be big. An adaptation of a James Ellroy novel, the same guy behind L.A. Confidential, which got 9 Oscar nominations. The expectations were high. Very high. Everyone thought this could be the one. Originally, David Fincher was attached to direct. And if you know Fincher, you know he doesn't compromise. The producers wanted him to tone things down. Fincher did the opposite, pushed even harder. At one point, he even insisted the entire movie should be shot in black and white. The studio wasn't having it, so Fincher walks. And they bring in Brian De Palma, whose best days were already behind him. From there, everything starts going wrong. Actresses begin dropping out one by one. The biggest hit? Eva Green leaves the project. She's replaced by Hilary Swank, who, let's be honest, doesn't exactly fit the classic femme fatale mold. Then production turns into chaos. Reshoots, rewrites, actors clashing on set. The budget is getting cut. Even the composer gets replaced at the last minute, leaving almost no time to finish the score. It's a mess. The film opens Cannes, which sounds impressive, but the reactions are lukewarm at best. Then things get worse. The US distributor walks away, just drops it. Universal steps in, pays $20 million for distribution, and can't make that money back. The movie grosses about $22 million in the US on a $55 million budget. Worldwide, same story, a complete flop. And just like that, a film that was supposed to be an awards contender turns into something everyone tries to forget as quickly as possible. And this time, Hartnett doesn't walk away untouched. This one hits him the hardest. After The Black Dahlia, the offers dry up. Good roles? Gone. He manages to land 30 Days of Night. There's hype, a big marketing push, people expect it to break out. It doesn't. The movie underperforms. A sequel is planned, then canceled, then quietly released straight to video later. Not exactly a comeback, so Hartnett tries something different. He leaves Hollywood, starts working in smaller European and Asian films I Come With the Rain and Bunraku. But nobody really watches them. They don't make noise, they don't travel, they just disappear. Back in the US, his projects start going straight to video. His last wide theatrical release in that era is Resurrecting the Champ with Samuel L. Jackson. And even that gets pulled from theaters after just 2 weeks, that's how bad it goes. He finally makes a return in 2014 with the TV series Penny Dreadful. For a moment, it feels like a reset, but the show never becomes a major hit. The numbers stay low, and after 4 seasons, it's over. After that, back to smaller films. B-movies, mostly off the radar, until 2024 when he returns to theaters with Fight or Flight and Trap. But so far, it's unclear if those films will actually bring him back into the spotlight. And here's the craziest part. Josh Hartnett is only 47. That's not old. Not for Hollywood. Not for leading roles. And if he had made a different decision, just one, when Christopher Nolan called, there's a very real chance his career would look completely different today. We might be talking about him as one of the biggest stars of his generation. Then again, maybe not. Because look at Christian Bale. Before Batman, he had American Psycho and The Machinist, but also a long list of flops. Laurel Canyon, Equilibrium, Reign of Fire, The New World, Captain Corelli's Mandolin. Even after Batman Begins, he stumbles again with Rescue Dawn and Harsh Times. And then The Prestige saves him again, so maybe it all comes down to timing, or one decision, or just being in the right place when the right call comes in. That was Frameback. Subscribe for more rewinds and see you on the next one.